Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this brick wall we just put in here. Say I want to make some adjustments to it. For instance, I was noticing that the plane and the brick don't meet up. So, and then what if I like the brick now that I've got it scaled properly? It's from the right proportions. But what if I want it bigger or smaller? There's another really cool modifier called Map Scaler. Where there it is. Whoops. Let's see it. And when you put this on here, it's much easier. You're working with 3 numbers instead of, you can scale it here, but you have to work with 6 numbers. And you can, I'm going to go back over here. You can scale it over here, but this is really hard to work with. I've tried. I give up. So I found an easier way to do it, and it's Map Scaler. So for instance, this is set at 100, which means that that is 100%. But if I scale it up, it makes it bigger, and if I scale it down, it makes it smaller, and it's just a straight 1-to-1 ratio. So say I decide the brick was too big, and I want the brick smaller. Well, I can just scale that down. Now, this U offset and the V offset has to do with where the pattern starts on the wall. So this kind of happened to work out okay, but just say it didn't. Say I want to adjust, whoops, that's the wrong one. Say I want to adjust where the brick starts. Look down there at the plane, and you can see I can move this whoops, I keep clicking the wrong one. Very tiny increments to get it to where I want it. Okay? Now, same thing with this. If this is not seamless and there's a seam showing up and you can't find anything that is seamless, I can get that out of the view by moving it. Or if I have a particular pattern I want to start somewhere, let's see. Let's go, let's look at the end of the wall here. I was going to move the wall. It'll come into view. Okay, there we go. So you see the end of the wall? So say I want, that's in my scene for some reason. Maybe it's the end of a building. I can use that to get just a little bit off. Okay, and get the brick right at the edge. And so now it looks realistic. It looks like a building. This may seem petty, but the reality is that the right brain, your right brain, and y'all haven't heard me say this before, I read books by neurobiologists. I'm teaching you all how to learn, and I think it's important to understand the brain, so I read these books in order to understand about the brain. And I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, so now I remember. Okay, so the thing is this. If you have this right, no one will notice it. And that seems thankless. But if you have it wrong, people will notice it. And they may not know what's wrong, but they know something's off, and it bothers them, and it's distracting. Because that's what our right brain does. It notices patterns, and when they're off, it alerts us to that. But it can't do it with language, because language is associated with the left side of your brain. So it has to do it through something that we call intuition, or gut feeling, or a hunch, or any of those feelings where you get this gnawing feeling that something's wrong. That's your intuition telling you the pattern's off. And while this is a minor thing, this is not like, hey, there's some dude, standing in the outside my car and I can see some shadows are off, so that's a concern kind of thing. It's just that something is off with this building, and my brain is not going to allow me to think about or focus on anything else until I've resolved what's wrong. And that ends up causing people not to pay attention to what you want them to. So you want these details to be pristine so that they are not distractions to where you want people to actually be looking. Okay? So now that I fixed that, and that could be like a corner of my building or something, no one's going to notice it. No one's going to notice that the pattern, if the pattern is or isn't off. But if it is off, then they're going to be like, something's off. The brain's going to say something's off, and it's going to start bothering you until you start looking for and trying to find what's off. And we don't want to do that. So spend the time to get those details right. Okay? So map scaler, and you can work all the way down to the thousandths of a fraction of a unit. And I'm not even sure what units we're working with. I'm just assuming they're feet because they're just default units, but they may be meters. Wrap texture. That is just when you want the texture to wrap around the edge of an object. But you can work with this at a very tiny, small amount. Say I want to change that just a tiny amount, and it'll do it. So you can work it very small. And it's just easier than working with those numbers, because these numbers will do the exact same thing as this. It's just harder to work with. I've gotten very frustrated trying myself. Okay, so let's move on to another material. Let's work with that martini glass. Okay, so for what most people don't realize is for glass, you actually want to make it black. Or dark gray. Okay, you want it to be a really dark color like that. Let's attach this. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to work with is the opacity. And you want to get this pretty low. Okay, and then I want to take up my specular level and my glossiness. Okay, and then we're going to want to use okay, so reflections and refractions are something that glass has. All right, so right now it's just this flat color. You can sort of see it there. It sort of looks like it's a shadow, faint glass that's there. It needs reflections and refractions. And one of the things it's going to need, as you see, I don't have a background here. I need a sky. That's lovely. Okay, we'll use that. All right, so back to this. Rendering environment, and we're gonna go get that sky. Now, one of the things I want to show you that you want to do to make sure that your map is scaling properly is drag it into a slot like that as an instance. And make sure it's an environmental map. Before they were all textures, and this one we want it to be an environmental map. And we can do screen. And then right here it is. Bitmaps right here. Drag it back. And drop it back in that slot. And it should look better than it has before. Oh, of course it didn't, did it? But you see that line? Well, here's the cool thing. I'm just going to stop it right there. I can adjust that. And I can do it by rotating the offset number. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's move this over for now. So you can see the sky. Okay, just render that out. Okay, so you see what's happening? It's not seamless at all. I've got a seam right there. And that's where this edge of the map and this edge of the map are coming back around and wrapping on each other. See what happens if I change it to cylindrical. Sometimes that'll do it. Nope, didn't do it. Okay. So what we can do here is you have these U and these V numbers. And when you, oh, I'm sorry, what I was going to show you is first. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Let's go back over here to default shading, viewport background, environment background. Okay, now I can see it here, so I don't have to keep rendering it out every time. Okay, so now I can see with my offset numbers, I can make adjustments to these numbers. And they will shift where, it's not updating it. So if it would just update it. That's going up and down. This one's going round. Well, it's supposed to be working and it's not working. Well, you know, it's good when it does stuff like this to me, because then you guys can see how to fix it. It should work. I've always seen it work. You just rotate it. It's just spinning the cylinder. Not working. I don't know why it's not working. It always works. It's never not worked before. Let's do this. Mirror instead of tile and see what happens. No. It just hates me. It's not doing anything but what it wants to do right there. And I've turned this off. That usually does it. That usually fixes it. You just move those numbers and it moves the same. Alright, we can do something else. I should have to fix this. Okay, one way to fix this is to create a giant cylinder or sphere. And put everything inside of it like that. Okay. And then hit the trash can. Yes. We'll save that for trying it again later, I guess. Alright, and then maps, diffuse color. Go get the... Oh, I'm almost out of time. I'm going to have to finish this in the next video. Okay, I'll continue in the next video.